The purpose of this consultation is to seek views and especially welcome and invite debate on this issue. The consultation also raises a couple of questions on voting rights. And I am proud that our franchise is based around those who choose to make their life in Scotland. It is one of the most generous sets of voting rights in the world, with people from any country with a legal right to live in Scotland potentially eligible to vote. Excluding short-term visitors, asylum seekers are now the main group of foreign nationals aged 16 or over living in Scotland without voting rights. The consultation paper therefore asks about the issue of voting rights for asylum seekers. It also seeks views in relation to a small group of people detained on mental health grounds in the context of conduct contrary to criminal law. The question here is whether any change is needed following the recent extension of voting rights to prisoners serving sentences of 12 months or less. A number of other issues in relation to standing for election are discussed, including the publication of the addresses of candidates who act as their own election agent at local government elections, and the provision of free post mailings for candidates in said elections. It also considers a number of points in relation to the administration of elections. There are some quite technical questions on the scheduling of elections and the scope for polls to be postponed in the event of exceptional circumstances, such as a pandemic. This stems from the direct experience in election planning over the last few years and are intended as an opportunity to future-proof our system. On Electoral Commission, it covers arrangements for parliamentary oversight of the Commission's activities in relation to devolved elections. Although funding for these activities is provided by this Parliament, it is Westminster that currently performs most of the oversight on devolved elections. The consultation therefore explores a greater role for the Scottish Parliament in this. On boundaries, Scotland, the approval process for boundary recommendations is covered, including seeking views and most appropriate role for the Scottish Parliament in their consideration. And as we all know, returning officers play a vital role in ensuring the smooth running of elections. Since 2011, they have been assisted by the Electoral Management Board for Scotland. This has proved to be a significant success, with advice, support and directions issued by the convener proving invaluable during the pandemic. The consultation reflects on the role and the structure of the EMB and seeks views on options for developing its role. Interestingly, if I can even say it, Presiding Officer, but it is an interesting point, the Welsh Government has recently consulted on the creation of an EMB in Wales and has directly drawn upon the positive experience of here in Scotland. Finally, Presiding Officer, I want to address the impact of the UK Elections Act in Scotland, 2022 in Scotland. Exactly 1 year ago today, this Parliament refused consent for application of that Act to areas within devolved competence. I said then, and there were some aspects that need further consideration, the consultation explores these points. On some issues, I am sympathetic to the adoption of certain Elections Act measures. These include changes in relation to campaign finance, undue influence and intimidation of candidates. I would, however, very much welcome the views of consultees and those of colleagues here in the Chamber. I am sure we had these discussions when I went to committee previously discussing these issues. On voter ID, I remain strongly opposed to the developments made for the UK general elections. Voter ID risks significant voter confusion and has not been brought forward in response to any clear identified problem. Few accepted the rationale set out by the UK Government or approved of its plans. While voter ID does not apply to devolved elections, it will add additional responsibility for returning officers and polling staff in Scotland at UK parliamentary elections. I consider that this underlines the need to avoid elections to the UK Parliament being held at the same time as a devolved poll. We also have a different electoral system and franchises to consider. As a result, the consultation proposes a presumption against a devolved election being held on the same day of an election to the UK Parliament in the same area. Presiding Officer, the electoral reform consultation covers several fundamental, technical and wide-ranging matters. I hope the members have found my outline today helpful and useful, and I look forward to the debate and move the motion in my name.